Hey, good evening everyone, I hope everyone's doing well. There was something else that I wanted to draw attention to. And in the words of the great Monty Python, and now for something completely different. There'll be no talk of Tommy Robinson or Richard Inman or Thorpe. First of February protest on this one. I want to talk about knives and guns today. And I'm not talking about the guns that I have at home. The airsoft ones that I'm legally allowed to have since they're two-tone. Now obviously the guns don't have as much symbolism here in the UK, as obviously we have some of the strictest firearm control in the UK. Some of the finest anywhere in the world, in fact, I would dare say. But I think people have heard of one actor, Idris Elba. Oddly enough, I came across this guy at first when I was watching the film known as, I think it was called The Dark Tower. And while it may not be appealing to some people because they prefer the book, I, for one, haven't read the book, so I've only got that to go off of. Though the mage in that one was bloody brilliant, the way I look at it as a villain, the way I slice it. The way in one of the opening shots, he just says to one of the protagonists, stop breathing, and then all of a sudden, they start suffocating and die. Now, I wish someone would use that spell on Keir the Traitor Starmer and say, stop bullshitting. Anyway, back onto the point of knives and guns, because this one goes a bit more beyond what our establishment are doing, what other countries are doing. This is simple common sense, which is becoming increasingly common, I know. But what Idris Elba came out with was pretty moronic, to put it mildly. He went out of his way to say that we should dull all the knives. And in fact, I think he even said dull all the kitchen knives as well. And my first reaction to this, when I saw that, and you'll have to forgive me if I butcher what's the word? The impression I give. Oh, shut up, you tart. No income tax, no VAT, no money back, no guarantee. Sorry, had to do that. Good old Only Fools and Horses, I'll have to watch it at some point. And while I wouldn't use this next phrase for Idris Elba, I certainly would use it for a certain Prime Minister. Some people get wise men bearing gifts. We get a Wally with a disease. And Rodney, you give my arse a headache. Well, I've got to try and inject. Stroke number one, inject some comedy in there. And I probably have already now with that stroke. But on to the actual point of what he said about knives. Dulling knives, while on paper it might sound like a good idea, though in my opinion it probably doesn't, I can accept there's some logic behind it. If the knives are dulled, how are they supposed to kill people? But the trouble is, people who are going out with knives with malevolent intentions are going to go out of their way to try and off people anyway. Quite frankly, it doesn't matter if the knife is as sharp as Paul Cinnamon's suit, or if it is a stroke number two, or if it's as blunt as a warhammer. I mean, it really isn't going well for me, is it? I've already got an average of 3 strokes a day. At this rate, I'm going to be on 100 stroke number 3. 300 strokes before the month is out. We're literally going nearly a stroke a minute here, folks. Jesus H. Christ. No, he can't help me, I'm too far gone. Thou shalt not use the Lord's name in vain and all that shit. But here's the cold, bitter truth. It doesn't matter how sharp or how blunt a knife is. If someone intends to end someone else's free trial of life, you're not going to stop them from doing it. Because what it boils down to is, yes, knives off people, but it's not the knives that are responsible for offing people, it is the person wielding it. The only thing you're effectively going to do by blunting a knife or squaring off the edge or what have you is you're basically going to make it take longer, which if anything might prolong someone else's suffering if we were to actually get serious on this. As I said, if somebody wants somebody else dead, then all they need to do is just repeatedly stab someone and that's it. They're going to die anyway. The only thing you're truly impacting is how many stabs it'll take. And in my case, how many strokes will it take before I pass on? Anyway, that's the cold truth on it. You're not going to stop people, any people. And even if, let's say, we want to ban knives, as well as the fact that we have some of the strictest firearm regulations in the world, do you honestly think that's going to stop people from getting, oh, I don't know, let me think of a few things. A screwdriver, which is pretty sharp, a pencil, a pen, in some cases a ruler, or you could even cut a few bits off the ruler and make that effectively into a knife. At this point, you might as well say, why don't we just ban emery boards and whetstones and all that shit, since they're used to sharpen knives? Not to mention the fact there are some jobs here in any society that require you to have a knife, since it can help you with a variety of certain things. I mean, chefs need knives to stroke number 4, to prepare meals in restaurants. Or what about the construction workers that sometimes need those knives to, oh, I don't know, maybe they need to cut off some packaging so that they can make use of scaffolding or some shit. Or maybe they need to mark something so that they know whether they need to cut something at a certain point with a saw. Like, here's the thing. You can't ban stuff just because atrocities happen because of them. I mean, yes, what happened in Southport, I don't think anybody is questioning how reprehensible that shit is. But I also see that Idris Elba is trying to make good of the situation. Like, you know what they say though, the road to hell is often paved with good intentions. I mean, the guy is completely swinging for the fences, but the ball's already dropped to the floor, quite frankly. He has completely missed his opportunity. Because the bottom line is, knives don't kill people, the people behind them do. Even if you ban knives, people are just going to get some other sharp instrument and use that instead. Hell, if someone was really desperate, they could probably cut a few bits and bobs off of this and make a weapon. Or they could, I don't know, make a level wrap, put some knuckles on it, put some bladed weapons on it, or even just some tacks or some shit. Use that as a bladed weapon. Like, you can't stop people from having blades. That's not the answer. The answer is to put, well, it's basically make it so that there are, I don't know, some psychological tests that you have to do. Make it so that, I don't know, you have to be like, I don't know, 25 or something to buy a blade. If you have more regulations, okay, it won't wholly stop the issue, but what it will do is it will limit the people who can get them. And anybody who is in possession of a knife, we need to bring back stop and search. We need to bring back stop and search and dish out heavy sentences for anybody who is found to have a knife. Especially so for those who are under the age and have a knife. What you often see, London is a good example of this, is a lot of the knives carried around are predominantly carried by blacks and black gangs. Don't just take my word for it. Look up the demographics of knife crime and you'll see exactly what I mean. But of course the mainstream media won't tell you this. You know the drill, folks, because say it with me, it doesn't suit the narrative. And I know there are going to be some NPCs who say, he's being racist! Oh, shut up, you tart. Like, literally, just shut up. There is nothing racist about stating facts. Now, if I was saying it in bad faith, or I said something like, black people are responsible for all the robberies, yeah, then you could say I'm racist. But, last time I checked, on the statistics as far as knife crimes are concerned, it is, ironically, black on black crime that is most predominant, especially in London. Moving on to the gun side of things as well, as I said, we have a lot of very strict firearm weapon laws in this country. Not allowed automatic weapons. In fact, it is very, very strict on whether or not you can have one. Hell, even the police have to pass certain tests in marksmanship to make sure that they are capable of holding a gun and are able to use it responsibly. There are so many psychological tests that normal people have to go through in order to get their hands on a weapon. Like, you can't sit there and say, oh, we need to ban guns, because the way I look at it, going back to the whole knife thing, it's basically like you want to drop the muzzle velocity maximum of a gun just because guns kill people. No, guns don't kill people, just like knives don't kill people. The people behind them do it, quite frankly. And all lowering the muzzle velocity will do is it will mean that it will take more shots to kill someone. It may potentially save lives, you could argue, but the truth is, if someone wants to go out and murder someone, they're going to do it. Just like that. You know why? Because that's their intention. It is a completely nonsensical argument to say we need to dull the knives, which is what Idris Elba is saying. He is saying we need to dull the knives when that will be about as much use as a chocolate ashtray on a motorbike. Like I said, if you want to control it, stop and search and have hefty, not fines, sentences for people carrying a knife would be a very good place to start, because it would discourage all the young kids from having one, especially if you have an age limit on it. After all, it should really be only adults who are responsible. Well, it surprises me why I've got one then. Anyway, only people who are responsible should be allowed to have knives. And if kids are going out there with knives, then there's one of two things going on. Either one, the parents are not controlling their kids well enough to make sure they don't go out and do this, or the alternative is the kid is so evil that they are going to go against their parents regardless, get a knife regardless, and they're going to stab someone regardless. We need better control on this, and blunting weapons will not blunt crime, quite frankly. In fact, all it'll do is cause more suffering if we were to get serious. So I think, Idris, while you may have good intentions, I suggest you engage your brain before you engage your mouth. To round this whole subject off, and to reiterate, you can dull the knives, but it won't stop people killing with them. You can drop the bullet velocity, but it won't stop people using guns to kill other people. And if we were to consider all other aspects of weapons, I'm pretty sure there are people who go around with all sorts of objects, like a tire iron. I don't know why I had trouble with that last one. A hammer, a screwdriver, a wrench, just to name a few items that are still more than capable of taking someone's life. A crowbar would be another one. Like, if these things are capable of taking lives as well, are we now going to ban those things as well, just because they can kill people? There is about as much sense in that as me saying that I am fit and healthy at my current weight of 19 stone. This is the thing. People may sit there and mock me for how big I am. I may be 19 stone, but I'll tell you what I am. I'm 19 stone of fucking truth, quite frankly. If you ban knives, if you ban guns, then all you are doing is you are playing into the hands of the criminals, and you are playing into the hands of the people we don't want to have them, because they will go out of their way to get them anyway. The only people you'll hurt by doing that is the legitimate people who just want to go about their lives without being nannied by some nanny state, although it is more like a dictatorship, let's face it. Another weapon that could be used, pitchfork. Pitchfork is used to, is it till the soil? I can't remember the exact terminology off the top of my head, but they go in, they use a pitchfork, cultivate the ground. They use cultivators as well to cultivate the ground. They could easily kill people. Why don't we ban them as well? At the end of the day, if we keep going down this route, there'll be nothing that will be legal and tender in this country, or any other country for that matter. How sad is it as well? I've had 4 strokes, and yet now I've had, 8 minutes without one. Christ. Maybe it's something to do with me walking and talking, I don't know. But banning things or blunting things is not the answer. We need robust policing, robust punishments for anybody breaking those laws, And maybe then you might get some semblance of control over the things that potentially kill. You may not be able to outright ban these things, because people will get a hold of them anyway. But what you can do is make it so there is a very strong action-consequence scenario. There is a very strong, you do this, you pay a heavy price for it. Like how I've covered the Just Stop Oil protests and the Insular Britain wankers, and of course, just plasticine. Oh, sorry, not just plasticine, just plain plasticine. You know what I mean. But basically, if we put in stuff, that will mean there will be serious consequences for their actions. Maybe then they'll think twice before they decide to take someone's life.